Hey everyone, thanks a lot for joining us today. This is Praveen from Factors.ai. So I'm one of the co-founders of Factors.ai and I take care of product, marketing, and customer success at Factors. About Factors, we are a 3-year-old company and we operate in the broader account intelligence and account analytics space. And in today's session, what we are specifically going to discuss is based on our experience working with around 200 customers. Essentially, how do sales-led companies where the primary go-to-market is a demo, discovery call, opportunity, that sort of a flow rather than like a product-led flow, how do they leverage account identification and account analytics to scale their go-to-market, right? So that's the primary agenda for the session today. I think we have a very good audience already. So as part of the session, what I'll be doing is I'll use a couple of slides, maybe for the first 5 or 10 minutes. And then after that, I'll jump into Factors itself and show you in reality how our customers are leveraging Factors to scale these go-to-market models, right? So essentially, as I said, today's agenda, we are largely going to discuss about sales-driven sort of go-to-market. And typically, companies in this model have a really complex product. What I mean by that is that it's not a product which they want to kind of allow for a self-serve sort of onboarding or sign up, because even the value of the product has to be communicated in a demo or a discovery call. Whether a prospective customer is a good fit, again, needs to be evaluated in a demo or discovery call. Typically, they also tend to have like premium pricing. What I mean by that is at least $30,000 to $100,000 or upwards would be the sort of pricing range that we are looking at for these products. Another common characteristics that we see is relatively long implementation cycles. So typically these products take like a few weeks to a couple of months or more to implement and roll out in the customer's sort of organization, right? And there are multiple sort of people involved in the purchase decision, and hence that also leads to a relatively long sales cycle, right? One typical example that I can take here is one of our customers who had come on a previous webinar, which is Everstage. They largely operate in the sales commission software category. And again, it takes a relatively long time to kind of implement that product. The buying committee involves sales SDRs and AEs who are the primary sort of audience who benefit from the product, but also the CRO as well as the CFO who are also involved in this buying decision, right? So today's session, we are largely going to focus on companies of this nature and currently how do they go to market and how can they scale their efforts by adding account identification and account analytics into that mix. Now, if you look at it today, the typical workflow for sales teams at these companies is they'll have defined their ICP in terms of industry, employee range, other headquarters, other criteria that you would use to define the ideal customer profile. Within that, they'd be researching these target accounts to kind of find which one of them are matching their ICP. Reach out to contacts in these accounts, either through LinkedIn or emails, and then measuring their success with KPIs, right? So this is the typical sort of flow that the SDR teams go through in these companies. Now, the key challenge with this flow is that the sales team is not really leveraging the existing marketing efforts to razor sharp or sharpen their focus over here. So if you look at this workflow, all the effort that marketing teams are already putting in these companies, that is not being leveraged by the sales team to kind of make their own outbound process better, right? And that I feel is like the biggest gap, right? And typically, as you know, this is largely because teams operate almost independently. They don't really have like a unified sort of data set through which they can kind of understand which are the accounts that marketing is focusing on so that they can focus on the same sort of companies, right? And so, yeah, so typically sales team purely focuses on outbound and then, finding these ICP accounts and reaching out to them. The marketing team is primarily focusing on driving inbound demos, and anyone who doesn't become a demo that's not kind of passed over to the sales team to improve their workflows, right? And the marketing team is also spending thousands of dollars on content and ads, especially like search ads, which bring in really, really high intent audience to the website. Now, what we propose is, what if these teams could be aligned and they could act together, right? And what we feel then is that a coordinated effort, and this is how it might work out, which is that marketing is running ads and generating high quality content, which is attracting a lot of accounts which are interested in your offering. Marketing identifies these accounts using a account identification solution like Factors, further narrows down these accounts to identify which are the ones which are showing maximum intent, and then passes those to sales so that sales can prioritize these high intent ICP fit accounts in their sort of outbound activity as well. So in this way, all the effort that marketing is already doing that feeds into the sales funnel, and the end result being that there's a higher ROI for marketing campaigns, and likewise, there's a higher conversion rates for the SDR teams, right? And this would hence ultimately result in a more accelerated sort of growth for the company, right? I think there was a question. I'm sorry, there was a hand raised earlier, and I could not. Uh, if there was a question, maybe if you could just post it in the chat, I'd be happy to kind of take that now or later as well. So yeah, I think someone had raised a question, but I could not do that then, right? So yeah, essentially this is the sort of gist of what we are driving towards, which is to say, rather than each of these teams operating in individual silos, how do you accelerate the growth for the company by aligning them together and ensuring that the sales team is benefiting from all of the good work that marketing is already doing, which also results in higher ROI for marketing campaigns and hence more investment into these marketing programs, right? Now, how does Factors help in this? So Factors essentially is a unified sort of platform. So we connect with all your, the sales tech stack, such as your CRM, your sales engagement platform, etc., and your marketing automation, such as Marketo. We also bring in data from LinkedIn for all your LinkedIn campaigns, G2 for any G2 intent subscription that you have. We integrate with platforms like ZoomInfo and Apollo. And for accounts that are visiting your website, we have the ability to identify which are those accounts, even if the users do not fill out a form, right? And this helps us build a unified sort of account timeline across all the interactions that this account is having with you across sales and marketing teams, right? Now, on top of this unified data, we power three different functionalities. So one is scoring and alerts, which is we help you score these accounts based on their level of engagement, and then alert the relevant salesperson via Slack or other channels in terms of when the account is showing a lot of interest. You can also take the intelligence from Factors out into your CRM itself. So we allow you to activate this data back into HubSpot or your sales engagement platform like Outreach, so that you can, the intelligence that is there in Factors doesn't remain sort of inside Factors, but you can consume it in the systems that you're already using. And thirdly, we provide a lot of analytics functionality for you to figure out if this entire engine is working the way you expect, right? And as I mentioned, we currently work with over 200 customers where we have implemented these solutions. And I'll be walking you through some real examples of how this could work out, right? And I'd be using my own sort of Factors account. So what I'd be showing you would be real data from the Factors platform for my own. So as I said, if there are any questions, please do feel free to drop that in the Q&A box, and I'd be happy to kind of address that in between as well, right? Now, just getting started here. So what I've done here is, going back to the example of the Factors marketing team, search is one of our primary channels of advertising, right? So if in the month of October, I can see that we've got roughly 934 clicks or sessions from search as a channel. So these are really high intent sort of traffic because they are actually interested in a keyword that we are bidding for, right? And we have obviously paid quite a bit of money to get these clicks to our website. Now, the challenge is that we would only know the email IDs for very few of them for us to kind of actually reach out or engage with them in a meaningful way. So if I were to apply a filter of the 938, almost 90% of these clicks, I actually have no idea who they are, right? For the ones who converted, obviously they'll be part of a marketing nurture program and a sales outreach. Most likely they would have submitted a demo form and we would have taken it from there. But what happens to these 848 users who are really high intent, searching for the keywords that we are interested in, and landing on our website and have consumed our landing page as well, right? Today, that remains a statistic in some dashboard and is not used by either the marketing team or the sales team, right? Now, what we are able to do with Factors is we can actually throw light on which are these companies. So again, I'll mimic the same sort of analysis that I did over there earlier, which is to say, let's look at all the users where we don't know who they are, which runs into this 848 sort of number over here. Of that, around 261, which is around 30% of the clicks, I'm still not able to identify who they are. But for all the others, I'm able to see that this is the company from which these users have visited the Factors website. In fact, I'm able to uncover almost 560 companies, 56 pages of 10 companies each, who have been to our paid search landing pages. And this is a goldmine of data for my SDR team to kind of reach out and prioritize these accounts in their outbound activity. Now, not all of these accounts may be interesting. For example, we definitely don't sell to companies like Tata Consultancy Services, right? And that is where, Factors filtering abilities allow you to say, let's just look at ICP fit companies. So for example, we only sell to software and technology and business services as two industries. And further, we only sell to companies in an employee range of 20 to 1,000. So we don't really go beyond that. So we stick to this sort of employee range. And let me just do this. Hey, Ketan, let me just see how to. Hey, Ketan, I've allowed you to talk, so please feel free to ask your question and happy to kind of answer that now. Ketan, are you able to hear me?
Yes. Hi, Praveen.
Hi, Ketan. How are you?
Doing good, Praveen. So one of the biggest challenges we are facing, we've been using Factors for a long time. I think the insights and the information that we get is extremely good. We get information of companies, and since we cater to a very niche segment, we target industries which are a little old school legacy companies like energy, utilities, telecom, and a lot of those companies. And we get a lot of good information. One of the challenges we're facing is how do we actually use the data from sales? I would love to hear from your good use cases that you have with your customers of how can sales use that intent, personalize it, and target that data that we get from insights for success, basically to increase conversations with customers and then of course revenue. So that's the slight gap that we are facing. So I hope you can address that. I would love to hear some good use cases, some case studies that would help us understand and help me really build some good sales conversations as well.
Definitely, Ketan. So let me actually cover that in the later part of the call. So I'll keep you on as a host. So please feel free to come back, and I'll definitely address this in the next 10 minutes.
Sure. Thanks, Praveen.
Yeah. So what we have done here now is that from the 848 clicks that we've got, we've now within our ICP, we've been able to find close to 190 companies, right? So these are really sort of high intent companies. Some of these are customers that are just 1 second. Yeah. Some of these are prospects that we are speaking to. But what this helps the sales team in Factors is to really kind of focus their effort and attention on the right kind of companies. Now, what you can also do is you can then break it down at a city level to say which is the city that these users are coming from, so that within that company, if you want to kind of reach out to a specific sort of audience, you can see that these are the cities from which these users have kind of come to the website. So when you're trying to reach out to this company, you can further narrow it down by the city as well. And you can also kind of apply some filters to say, for example, if I'm doing outbound for Factors, most likely I expect that the marketing team in these companies would be visiting the Factors website, right? So whilst Provo or Next Sales might have a relatively large organizational size, you're able to narrow it down by looking at the department and then the city of the user, which helps you kind of prioritize your effort, right? So essentially what I've shown here is that, so your marketing team is already attracting really good fit companies to your website. Rather than the sales teams going after a completely different list of accounts, what you're now able to do is prioritize that list based on companies that are visiting your website from these paid search campaigns. Now, paid search is only one of the intent signals, right? So you can actually build out even more sort of a different list. For example, another one could be companies which visited the pricing page of Factors, right? And again, I have like a list of 700 companies that I can see that have visited the pricing page, right? Again, here also, not everyone is probably a fit. So if I were to apply the filters over here, you'd see that the list becomes kind of narrow as in when you kind of apply these filters. So from 700, it comes down to 280. And you can see that some of the companies are freshworks.com, Mutiny HQ, all companies that we would actually want to kind of work with us as well, right? So you can add additional intent signals like visited the pricing page, visited the search page, etc. Now, the challenge then is how do you actually consolidate all of these intent signals into like an intent score, right? And that, to your point, might also answer your question to say, how do you actually even further prioritize over here? And one of the ways you can do that is through the engagement scoring functionality within Factors. So here, what you can do is you can give weights, right? So I took two examples right now of pricing page and search traffic. There could be a lot more sort of intent signals that you want to consume, like visited the website from G2 or visited the website from a high intent sort of referral source, or went to your demo page, or went to your case study section, etc. Right? In Factors, what you're able to do is you can do engagement scoring where you define your own custom weights for all the activities that you have, right? So it could be an ad view on LinkedIn, an ad click, it could be filling out a form, it could be visiting a specific sort of competitor page or pricing page, etc. Right? And once you define these rules, and you can also define what is your average sales cycle, because then we will actually decay the scores as and when people move into as the engagement drops, we'll actually automatically decay the scores as well. What this allows you to do is, rather than looking at individual pages like search traffic or pricing traffic, you just land into the main Factors page. And what you get to see here is all the accounts that we have identified on the Factors website. And I have created segments over here. So you see a segment in this segment, for example. So we use HubSpot as our CRM. And what I've applied is a filter saying these are companies which are not in my HubSpot, right? And essentially, what this gives me is all the companies that are coming to the Factors website, checking us out, but are not yet there in our CRM, which means they are completely new in their exposure to Factors, right? And again, I can see like a list of around 1,000 companies. More interestingly, they are scored by their level of engagement, right? So you're combining all of their interest in your product or offering, and then ranking those accounts in their level of engagement. And Ketan, to answer your question, what I would advise is that your sales team should only be reaching out to companies where the level of engagement has crossed a certain threshold. Till then, what we would advise is that you should actually be nurturing those companies through campaigns on LinkedIn. So if you identify a company, and Factors can actually do that already, which is you can push out that company into a specific LinkedIn audience, you nurture multiple people in that company. And as and when the engagement score increases to a level, let's say above a certain threshold, that is when that is kind of passed to the sales team for a more personalized sort of outreach, right? And when it comes to that personalized outreach, if any of these companies is interesting for your sales team and is a good fit for your sales team, you can just click on that company and all of the activity that they've had. So for example, I've just clicked on this company called DXC Technology, not really like a ICP fit company for us because they're a pretty large company. We don't sell to the segment. But I can see that multiple people from that company have actually been visiting the Factors website. And as I said, the engagement level keeps dropping and then it increases as and when we note some engagement from that company, right? So, and you can also go into this bird view here and you can see almost all the interactions. So for example, this is a blog that we just published today. And I can see that today they've been on the website and looking at this particular blog called, pixel versus account based LinkedIn retargeting, right? Likewise, I can see that they've actually gone into a bunch of our other pages and blog pages that we have, and they've been active on our website all the way from August of 2023. All of this activity is being summarized and consumed in defining the score and giving you this engagement score. So again, you split the accounts into the ones which are showing the maximum engagement, which the sales team can reach out to. And if my sales team is, for example, reaching out to this company, what I would expect them to do is very specifically look at some of these pages and then talk about, and personalize the messaging based on those pages to these companies, right? Just picking up a couple more questions that have come up. So William, yes, so you can save all the search criteria. So for example, if you go here, you can save this as like a segment, and any segment that you save will come up over here. So these are like, for example, North America accounts, tier 3 accounts, customers, and PQL. So this is where this becomes like my command center to monitor all the accounts and their level of engagement in like one place, right? So tier 1 accounts for Factors would actually be company, as I said, like software and technology and this employee range. And I can see most of the companies that you see here are actually customers of ours. But as I scroll over here, I can see that there are some companies like Spendit.io and others, where we should be kind of engaging a lot more. Now, so account scoring is one way to kind of distinguish between low engagement accounts and high engagement accounts. And how do you then actually nurture them separately based on where they are in the buying cycle? Because if you were to identify a good ICP fit account, but and immediately reach out to them, probably that's not going to work out because they probably need more time. And hence maybe that won't elicit a response from that company. So waiting till the accounts reach a certain threshold of activity would be one thing to kind of for a sales outreach, right? Now, as I said, so when the salesperson is doing that outreach, they have all of this history of this account and exact content that they've consumed, which becomes interesting. The last thing that I wanted to cover was how do you actually take this data out of Factors and into the systems that your teams are already working from, right? Because I understand it is a huge challenge to make any team kind of learn a new kind of software. So that is where Factors has alerts and webhooks. So you can define these alerts to say, if any company visits from paid search as a channel, then I'd want to kind of take all of these properties and then send it to like a Slack channel, right? And the way this works, in just taking an example of our own Slack channel, is that I get like a regular feed of all the companies that are actually visiting our website. And based on the properties of the company, and I have all of this detail saying specifically which campaign did they come from, what was the search term. I can then kind of coordinate with my sales team over here to say it's a good ICP fit account, so we should kind of reach out, right? Now, this could be Slack might be one way to kind of do this. We have an integration with Slack and Microsoft Teams if you're using Teams. Another way to do this is via webhooks, right? So you can actually publish these alerts into webhooks. And from the webhook, you can actually automate it into any other platform of your choice. So for example, our customer success team would actually help you set up these workflows like accounts. For example, the first workflow here, what it does is accounts that Factors identifies, it then goes to Apollo and then actually fetches the right job titles for you from Apollo. So it could be a specific team and a specific set of job titles that you go after, and then push all of that data into HubSpot. So for your sales team, they're not having to log into Factors. All of the data comes into HubSpot where they're already kind of working, right? And again, you can make this workflow very complex. So you can say something like, if it's a target account, then go create a task in HubSpot against the sales owner. If it is not a target account, then assign it in a round robin fashion inside HubSpot, right? So you can do all of that as well. Another workflow that we set up as well for all our clients is the marketing nurture workflow. Essentially, the accounts that we identify. So if we identify one high intent account on your website, then we can automatically push that into a LinkedIn matched audience. And then you can target, let's say, 5 or 7 people from that company whom you can then reach out to, who can then, so that the engagement in that company kind of increases and it passes a threshold for your sales team to then kind of reach out. Obviously, what we expect in an ideal state is that once a company is more aware about you, they'd come inbound. But once the engagement crosses a certain threshold, it'll be easier for your sales team to kind of reach out to them via outbound as a channel as well, right? Yeah. I'm just taking this one question from Abhishek. Account engagement score is nice. However, if I want to get some insights on whom to prioritize, so currently we don't have a contact or lead scoring functionality. So we currently operate at the account level. So everything that we do is at the account level. Largely, the reason for that is that a lot of the data that we get is actually at an account level, right? So this could be G2 intent signals. This could be LinkedIn sort of data as well. But I understand the feedback, and we will be adding a sort of lead scoring or contact scoring as a functionality also. But currently, what we are helping most of our customers with is prioritizing the account list. And as I said, for accounts which are showing moderate engagement, how do you actually nurture them through a marketing flow on LinkedIn? And for accounts which cross a certain sort of engagement, that as you see here, how do you then kind of pass it to the sales team with all the right context so that the sales team can actually reach out to them and hopefully get like a favorable response, right? So essentially, this is how Factors operates. One last thing that we also do is actually how do you measure the efficacy of your LinkedIn ads itself, right? So LinkedIn is one channel which a lot of B2B companies use heavily, and we are a LinkedIn marketing partner, so we can bring in a lot of LinkedIn data in terms of which companies are actually viewing your ads and clicking on your ads. So in this case, for example, I have built a report of companies which viewed your ad on LinkedIn and then came all the way to your website and checked your pricing page, right? And as I scroll down, I can see that these are the companies like Lambda Test. We just had a call with them today, and a bunch of others who are all very interesting for us. So almost 400 companies, 40 pages of 10 companies per page, where I can see that these are all companies who are engaging with us on LinkedIn, and they're also kind of checking us out on the website, right? So these are some of the signals using which you can prioritize your activities, split these accounts further into the sales funnel as well as a marketing funnel. And as I said, the accounts passed to sales, obviously, it's better if they've crossed a certain threshold of activity so that the likelihood of a more positive response is higher, right? And as much as possible, the emails to those accounts should be personalized for the specific sort of pages that they were interested in and the content that they were interested in, right? So yeah, that's essentially how we help our clients. I'd be happy to answer any questions on this. We have a mix of clients, but a lot majority of them are in the sales led sort of a model. And for many of them, we now contribute to roughly around 15 to 20% of their net new pipeline that they're generating, right? And some of these case studies, and I know, Ketan, you had requested for that, they are available on the Factors website. I think around 6 to 7 case studies, which go into quite a bit of detail on what was the business challenge that they were facing, how did we come in, what were the solutions that they tried in the past, and how were we able to kind of circumvent that, right? So yeah. So that is largely what I had for this session today. Let me open it up for Q&A and see if there are any questions which I can take as well. So yeah, please let me know in the Q&A box. And Ketan, I hope I answered your question. Happy to kind of discuss that again here if you're around. So let me actually, yeah. Hey Ketan, are you there?
Yes, Praveen. Am I
Yeah.
audible? Can you hear me?
Yes, you're audible. So Ketan, I think just coming back to the question that you had, right? So
Yeah.
I believe two things to do would be that one is definitely introducing a marketing nurture step in between through LinkedIn ads, right? So accounts on the website, ICP fit ones are pushed to LinkedIn to sorry about that, to drive up the engagement with those accounts, because and you can target multiple people within that company. So if you identify one company that is visiting the website, you can target, like, let's say 5 or 6 job titles within that company, right? And LinkedIn generally is seen as a very expensive channel if you're doing a cold targeting to a list of accounts. But what we have seen is that if you keep the list focused in terms of companies that are already showing engagement, then it is not that expensive, right? And then using the account scoring functionality, you can then kind of prioritize the list into the ones that sales should really kind of focus on. That is what I would suggest as a good way to kind of solve that problem of how do you actually take it to the next step, right?
Hey Praveen, great webinar. Thanks a lot for the information. Wanted to ask, is it possible to set up an automation where accounts that cross a certain lead score can be pushed into a HubSpot list? Or what sort of automation can you set up around account scores?
Yeah, so account scoring. So currently the account scores, like to very honestly answer your question, currently the account scores don't go into the alerting functionality today in Factors, but I expect to hit that by November end. What that means is by November end, you would be able to say only push accounts which pass a certain score threshold. And after that, you can do any sort of automation, like what you said, like push it into a HubSpot list or create a task on the sales owner for those accounts. All of that can be done, right? So scores here is something, we have not yet added, but it's something that will be available in November.
Thanks.
Yeah. Ketan, sorry, you were saying something. I think I interrupted.
No, I think, yes, Praveen, I think, see, as I said, so the insights are obviously helping us a lot. So see, we use our tech stack is something which, works very well with Factors. So we use ZoomInfo, which is our main tool for collecting data, contacts, and we pretty much our sales intelligence tool, sales database tool. We use HubSpot, which is our main marketing automation plus sales tool. And also we use Slack for our collaboration and stuff. So where I think we need to, I think I need help, or where I'm stuck is insights is one part of it, but we have tried, and I think we've used, all the Slack data. We go to every prospect who's visiting our pages and we get some good insights. For example, the other day we had a prospect who visited one of our blogs, a very targeted blog, a very targeted use case that we had created, and we reached out. Of course, it's a bit of a long shot because one thing is, you don't know who's visiting, right? That's a tough part. So we don't know who's coming. So we need to go to Apollo or ZoomInfo or any of these tools and get the data from Origi.ai and get these contacts. And it did work, right? Apparently a project manager was visiting. So, but then it is, like I said, a bit long shot. We don't know who's visiting. So what we need is how do we actually, because what the feedback I'm getting from sales is that insights are great, collaboration is fantastic, but it's still not resulting in, direct, we want more sales conversations that are happening. So how do we automate that? How do we actually make sales? Because marketing is loving it. Sales is something which I want to. So marketing sales alignment, and which is what you're talking about. I want to have it a little more aligned. One is through automation, which you just now mentioned about integrating it with, webhooks, or we can have direct integration with Apollo or some of these tools. I think we need to factor that in. But also from a process perspective, how do we really ensure that we're talking to a lot of those prospects and getting our pipeline filled using? So that's my biggest challenge right now.
I'm so sorry, I got a lot of cough. No, I agree, Ketan, that one is that you're not able to figure out exactly which person, right? Obviously, if you could do that, that would be the best possible thing. But as you can imagine, that would be in violation of a lot of laws.
Absolutely, yes.
So I think, as I said, the best bet would be that accounts are visiting the website, nurture them continuously through LinkedIn, and that won't be expensive, right? So people actually feel LinkedIn is super expensive. It is if you're just doing like a cold campaign. But for this, for example, our own case, I'll let you know, right? Like we target at least around 1,000 accounts on LinkedIn every month, and it costs us around like $500 to $600 a month, right? It is actually not as expensive, and we generate around 15 demos a month from LinkedIn, right? So if I were to just kind of show you some real data of saying how many people viewed our ad and then come to and submit a form on the website. If I look at Factors for the month of, I think like 26 sort of demo submissions which happen from LinkedIn, and we target like less than 1,000 accounts. And all of this LinkedIn targeting comes from the company list that we already identified, right? So it is actually not that expensive, and it works. We have been able to make LinkedIn work like search, right? Like search is a highly predictable channel where you say keyword, 5% conversion rate. What we've been able to do here is by introducing a LinkedIn nurture in between, we've been able to get a good amount of like sort of inbound interest via LinkedIn. And then for the ones which don't even kind of convert there, that is where you wait for the engagement to increase. And that's where the sort of the sales outbound kind of kicks in, right? So I'd say that adding LinkedIn as a step and then waiting till a certain threshold is hit would go a long way in terms of driving that efficiency up. Right? In the interest of time, I'll probably take one more question, guys. If there is any question to more to discuss, and even otherwise, if you have any questions later, please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or otherwise, right? Abhishek, so Abhishek, your question is on whether the city of accounts can be passed to LinkedIn. So we can pass that into LinkedIn. Now, the only problem is that in LinkedIn, what we are pushing is an audience into LinkedIn. And in LinkedIn, the campaign decides the targeting, like at a city level or not, right? So that is still controlled by the campaign settings that you have. So what we pass to LinkedIn is actually an audience and not, the city won't kind of, unless you split it by city. So you can always split it by city to say companies which are, or country, to say companies from US in one campaign, companies from Europe in another campaign, etc. That's always possible. But yeah, what we push to LinkedIn is an audience, and you can break it down by city, country, employee range, any of these ways, right? Hey, Navneet, are you able to talk now? Yeah.
Yeah. So Praveen, so one of the example accounts you showed, there was a timeline of activities that they have performed on your website. So in those, for example, for a particular blog, can you create a webhook based on particular events like visiting a blog or visiting a page?
Yeah, you can do that. So here I've selected website session as an activity. You can change this to like any page. So you can say, I want to look at people who visited a specific sort of page over here. You can do that. That's absolutely fine. So you can be very targeted about this.
Okay. And then based on that, basically run some sort of an automation workflow, like pushing to HubSpot or list or
pushing to LinkedIn. Yeah, you can do that.
Okay, awesome. Thanks.
Cool. All right. It's already 8:10. Thanks a lot, everyone, for attending the session. I really appreciate it. And if there are any questions, please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or via email. And yeah, thanks once again for taking the time out today. All right. I'll end the webinar now. See you.